Hi, it's Robin. Welcome back to Toadstool Tarot. I'm here today to do a VR to the Hermit's Cave Top 10 of all time. Now that's a lofty challenge because they change all the time. So mine's sort of top 10 with a waffle because 9 and 10 I'm not really sure about. They're pretty new to me and I can't tell if they're favorites of all time or if it's just, fresh infatuation that may fade over time. I also have several decks on their way in the mail, and who knows, that might change the whole lineup. But first on the list, let's get this out of the way, and this will be no news to anybody who follows me. I had a little tin made for it. Is the James Rick Cleff's RWS 2.0. I'm just going to show a handful of cards from each of these decks to you. Some of the stunners. This is the card that pretty much blows you away in this deck, I think, because of that sky. And this is currently my all-time favorite RWS deck. I do like the Centennial very much, and the Tarot of A.E. Waite, and the Study deck. But this is the one that I ooh and ah over and keep coming back to. And I'm not doing these in any particular order. So, next one is the Everyday Witch. I wasn't sure about this one. It almost didn't make my list because I've not used it much lately. But it's from Llewellyn, and I've kind of grown away from Llewellyn decks with the big real estate hefty size boxes and big beautiful books. They're great if you want a big, swanky package, but if you just want the cards, just want the deck, you have to think, where am I going to store that other stuff? At the moment I have this in a tin, and I haven't drawn this out to use very much in quite a while, but it really affected greatly how I learned tarot and changed my thinking about a few of the cards. For my understanding of the cards, for instance, Death. This is my favorite Death card. And, the Chariot. These gave me new ways of looking at these particular cards. The Moon. They helped me to understand and interpret them better in a way that worked for me. The Tower. The Devil. That really sums up temptation right there, which for me is the key word for the devil, temptation. And if going uphill with an armload full of brooms isn't the 10 of Wands struggle, then I don't know what is. So that is the Everyday Witch Tarot. Let's see, next we'll go with the White Witch Tarot. This is from Maya Yost and Red Feather Publishing in a swanky magnetic box. This isn't for everyone, but to me it's a little treasure. It's like scratch work on very glossy cards with gilt edges, and the cards are very heavy. Each one is like a little artwork. And these are going to be hard to photograph, but well, maybe not. There's a little bit of glare. They're very glossy, so these are my favorite cards in the deck. That's the strength card, and I love the radiant energy around all those hands. Seems like a very Reiki sort of thing. The sun. World. I don't know if you can see a character, they're carrying the world on their back. These are not for everybody and not the easiest to read, but there's a lot of subtle psychological stuff in there that I seem to be able to pull out when I read with them. I don't know if I could in reading for other people, but in reading for me, these are very, very deep and very contemplative, very meditative. It's a majors only deck, and I really love this one, the White Witch Tarot. I did have a little trouble with the little issues because of the gold, the gilt edge. Some of the cards stick together. You have to bend and break them a little bit to get them to pull apart. And my first deck was damaged. The second one worked out fine. But I have the first one now as a sort of a backup. Next on the list, we'll jump to Oracle. This is the only Oracle deck at the moment that I have. This is from Tarot by 7. It's the John Waterhouse Oracle. It's on linen stock, and you get to choose the backs, and I chose the back from a particular card that's in the deck. It's one of the, you get 8 choices for the backs. If I can find the card, probably not. It's probably buried somewhere that won't reveal itself to me. I should have organized this a little bit better. No, I'm not seeing it. Anyway. These are have no titles, no text, no numbering. They're strictly intuitive images with sort of burnt edge effect to the cards that antiques them. And I really love them. They have this very sort of pastoral sense and sort of old English gardens, pre-Raphaelite, Victorian era images. Very gentle, very quiet, very appealing. Oh, I found the card. That's the one that was, you can sort of see it kaleidoscoped into the design for the background. They didn't let me choose that. That was just one of the choices that they had. It's by Tarot by Seven, who did the Deck of the Bastard. It's the John Waterhouse Oracle. Next is, let's see, we'll go with the Peony Archers, the Little Monsters Tarot. Now these are rather oversized cards, which is the only thing about this deck that I'm not entirely enthralled with, and this is the second edition. The first edition was smaller, but apparently there were some printing issues. But I'd love to get my hands on a first edition if anybody runs across one, because they're smaller and more manageable sized cards. But I love the sort of ivory color cards and the monotone fine line ink work. Quite beautiful and quite delicate. And in some ways they inspired my own deck. We'll see later on. That's the Little Monsters Tarot, not to be confused with the Monst Tarot. The next one is, this is Silicon Ways Intuitive Tarot, which comes in a hefty box. That last one, the Little Monsters, does come in a box, but it's not. It's a tuck box, and it's not one I'm thrilled with. This is a hefty one, rose petal finish with a hinged top. Has a beautiful, also rose petal finish book inside, and little thumbnails inside the box. It's funny, coincidentally, this and the Little Monsters both use this sort of oval frame format. These are very slippery, silky cards. I love the feel of these. And this deck really makes me think of an otherworldly race in another galaxy. That's Silicon Way's Intuitive Tarot. Next we have the Tarot Des Aux Arcs. I can't remember the name of the creator of this deck, but you can find it, Tarot Des Aux Arcs 2 at McPlayingCards.com. No, sorry. Printer Studio, I believe. This is a Marseille style deck with beautiful, vivid, colorful, painterly images, contemporary. This kind of transitioned me into working with Pip and Marseille decks. That's the Tarot Des Aux Arcs. Now here's a couple that I'm waffling on. They are my newest acquisitions, and I'm having trouble deciding which one I like better. At the moment, I love them both. One is the Le Tarot de Marseille Fournier, made in Spain. And this has a beautiful, warm, there always has to be one card that jumps right out of your lap. I like the blue hair on some of the characters in this one. This has a lot of blues and oranges in this deck, and this is one of my favorite death cards. I just love the coloring of this death. These also have really nice backs as well, back design. These are slightly smaller than traditional size cards. You can see. They're very slippery. And I particularly love this Pope. It's beautiful, gentle. I don't usually find the Hierophant or the Pope sympathetic, but there's something about this one that he seems very sensitive. It's a very inquisitive looking hermit. I really love the coloring in these majors. Now in the minors, I'm not as keen on the pentacles. The wands are nice. The cups are nice. The swords are nice. Then the other one that I'm waffling a little bit on is the Tarot of Marseille by Vincent Pitisci. This also has a sort of modified color scheme, and I love the backs of these. These are regular size and very nice feel to them. The colors are beautiful, sort of sage, earthy tones. They're sort of toned down. They're not the usual kind of garish Marseille. The expressions on the faces are a little different than you might be used to. It's the Tarot of Marseille by Pitisci. And last but not least, the deck I find myself using most these days, and it's probably because I have a very intimate connection with it, is my own deck, the Open Face Tarot. And this comes in several sizes and options, but the one I find I end up using most is the tiny size, which is about the size of tarots in a tin, or slightly smaller, but not as tiny as mini cards. This is also the untitled version. I find that even while this is a minimal deck, that I find even more elements symbolically within this deck than I do in some other decks. I don't know, maybe I just put them in there subconsciously when I created it, and some sort of unseen muse prompted me in a way that is going to make it easier for me to read later on. So that's the mini size of the Open Face Tarot. There's the regular size. This one is the one with text on it, which, if you don't know tarot, this would be helpful. You do know tarot, I don't think you need the titles. And in some ways, I think the titles sort of get in the way of visually interpreting the images. And then you also have the untitled version. So, we have a few options. These are at makeplayingcards.com. So at the moment, these are my top 10 favorites of all time. And this will likely change over the next year or so, and there will be an update. But for now, these are the top 10.